Hey, it's the Local Spotlight Show here at WJBM Studios in Jerseyville, Illinois, the voice of the Tri-Counties. I am Chris Lorton, as your host today, and my guests. Happy to have this young couple, Craig and Crecia Robeen. Welcome, you two. How are you?
Excellent. Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
thank you.
And the reason you're here, you're great friends, love you guys, but also because you are big Indiana, both graduates of Indiana, Crecia played volleyball very well at Indiana, and Craig played football very well at Indiana. I think you were captain your senior year.
Yes, sir. 3-year starter, team captain as a senior, and those weren't quite as successful times as what we saw this year, but still.
I know. And we're going to talk about just this wave with Indiana, you know. But before we do, you've got some children we want to mention. How many you got? 3?
We have 3 daughters.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So we have Mabry, she's 18 and a senior at Carrollton High School. And we have Landry, who's 16 and a sophomore at Carrollton High School. And then we have Brooksley, and she's 14, 8th grade at St. John's in Carrollton.
Now, are they into volleyball as well?
All 3 of them play.
Are they?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep, all 3.
Yes. They doing pretty good?
Yeah. We had a great high school season for the older 2. And Mabry finished out her career with 1,000 digs, which was pretty great for her. And she had a good career, and she's done now though. And Landry's our setter for the high school team, and then Brooksley, that her little 8th grade team won state last year as 7th graders. So, and they're currently undefeated. So we'll see how they do this year.
Are you coaching them?
I do. Yes. Okay. Yes, I do. I do. Yeah.
Man, that's so great. Mm-hmm. And Craig, what have you been up to?
Just following these girls' volleyball, and of course, I'm busy with work, traveling with work all the time. But just to dote on Mabry for a second, our oldest, she wants to study business finance in college, and she applied to Notre Dame, Illinois, Mizzou, Indiana, our alma mater, which is what has an excellent business school. And she applied to UT Austin in Texas, and she got accepted to all of those schools, which had I ever even gotten a letter from Notre Dame, growing up Catholic in Calhoun County, I would have been thrilled just to get the letter. And she has decided she's going to Texas, so we're happy about that. We're kind of preparing for that adjustment in our life. It's what's taking up a lot of my energy, how we're going to pay for that, how that's going to work, and all that stuff.
So you guys were both playing sports in Indiana. When did you meet? How'd you get together?
We actually didn't meet until after we had both graduated.
Really?
Yes. So we can probably name, I'd say 10 times we were in the same room in college, as far as either like a training table where they used to feed us preseason or at a postseason awards banquet. But he graduated a couple years before me, and we just both happened to be back at homecoming at Indiana, and we had a lot of mutual friends who introduced us. And
you have to tell a story. So first of all, real quick, I got to do the preamble of this. This is the first time I'd gone back to IU since I graduated, and my roommates and I were tailgating at the game.
So what year was this? I mean, how many years later?
Well, say 2 years.
Okay.
2 years. So this is like 2002?
It was 2002. Mm-hmm.
And my roommates and I actually got in a wrestling match at the tailgate after the game, and the cops handcuffed us. Did not believe we were friends, okay? So we're wrestling in the mud. We're sitting in the mud handcuffed. We finally talk our way out of that, and we're like, what are we going to do now? We're like, well, we're going to go to Nick's, which is the big bar on campus. So we're all muddy, so we basically just turned our shirts inside out and put them back on.
Yeah.
And then went to the tavern. And that's when her and all of her friends were there, and you have to, it's kind of funny.
Well,
it's maybe the first time I didn't beg a woman of her caliber to talk to me. Worked out.
So I was originally from Jacksonville, Illinois, and my uncles were longtime officials for both basketball and football for the HSA. And so long story short, my brother takes a visit to Indiana for football, and he eventually ended up going to Arkansas State for football, but he was on a visit, and my mom was looking at the program for football and was like, oh, here's that Craig Robeen from Calhoun County your uncles have talked about just from reffing games. If you ever meet him, you have to introduce yourself. Well, I never met him in all of college. We never were introduced. I never met him. And so that night when the guys tell me, oh, that's because I said, I don't know that, the guy there sitting on the end. And they said, that's Craig Robeen. And so I went up and introduced myself.
Who's that handsome man on the end of the tab?
So I just went up and introduced myself. And he turned around and goes, great, you can go home and tell Mama you met me. And I was like, oh, no. And I walked away. I was so unimpressed. I was like, okay, whatever. Walk away. And, that could have been the end. That could have been it.
Well, I think it might be in most cases.
Yes. And but a couple hours later, we all ended up at a different bar, and I think he sat at my table and engaged me in conversation.
Tried a different approach.
and so here we are. Here we are today. So
That's great.
Yep.
Okay. Well, how about this Indiana football team? You guys, did you go to any games last year?
We did.
Yeah.
It was awesome. We because she coaches high school volleyball as well at Carrollton. We don't since the kids we haven't had a chance to go a lot of games, since we were done there. But last year, when I say last year, 2024, we got to go to the Purdue game, which is always the last game of the year, which is the big rivalry. So if you went to Indiana, you hate Purdue.
Right.
If you went to Purdue, you hate Indiana. And hey, I know hate's a strong word, but it's it's that type of rivalry. So we went to the Purdue game last year, which was the end of Signetti's first year.
Yeah.
And, they had a really good season, really only lost in a regular season at Ohio State. And then we go to the Purdue game, and they just beat them badly. It was 67-0. It was bad. She is the fanatic. Like it's freezing cold, snowing that day. It's like late third quarter. I'm like, I'm ready to go.
And I say, no, we're going to stay for the whole thing, and we're going to celebrate this whole thing. It was awesome.
Oh, shoot. And then, so you're excited about the next year starting with. What about Signetti? Any comments?
We don't know him. We went back to the stadium, and when you go back, they do a good job of treating you like family. There's still people there that we know. The director of football operations, or now he's alumni relations, was my position coach. He's still around. And we donated for the locker room about 5 years ago in Indiana, built a new locker room. So you donate, you get your name in a locker,
Right.
And I will tell you, Indiana has invested. And this was 5 years ago. So officials were coming in there and saying, this locker room looks like Ohio State's, And that stadium in the 20 years at the time since I had played, every room, meeting room, everything had been renovated. Both ends of the end zone had been closed in. So the mantra at the time in college football was kind of like, hey, this won't guarantee success, but not making these investments will guarantee failure. And I think you've seen that at Illinois, at Northwestern. You see it everywhere. It's like an arms race. So having gone back, Signetti, we never got to meet him when we were there. But obviously, he's been a dramatic change for the program.
Else,
Yeah. Everybody loves him. He does he's so genuine, in his halftime and pregame. I think my favorite pregame was this year at Penn State when he said, "Do you realize that Indiana has never won at Penn State?" And he's like, "This team's never played at Penn State." So it's just that kind of that part of him, I think, is what everybody loves. But
I think the best thing I've heard is, when he gave his very first pep rally inside Assembly Hall during a basketball game last year, it was his whole Purdue sucks moment, but so does Ohio State and Michigan, and the crowd goes crazy and everybody kind of ha.
I thought that was laughable. Those big words, obviously.
And I think the best thing I've heard, though, is somebody said he walked with that kind of swagger, right? And he somehow managed to under promise what he was going to deliver. Like when he said those words, no one would believe that they would do what they've done. And somehow those words were an under promise of everything he's delivered to the school. It's just incredible what he's done.
Yeah. I heard, just he used the portal to bring a lot of players in, and he brought players in that were just kind of, they weren't 5-star. You know, didn't get treated maybe like they should have. They were kind of mad. This is what I heard. That's what I heard.
Right. So I think it's a case study, and it's kind of set the bar, a new bar for everybody in college football. Not even college football. For me as a manager at work, it's kind of like, if this guy can come to Indiana and do this in 2 years, how come we aren't? You know, it's like, and the thing that he said a lot, and a lot of people have broken it down, how they've done what they did with the recruits that they have, is he says that I value production over potential. So today when you use the portal, it used to be forever, you recruit talent, right?
Right.
And you develop it. Those days are over, right? So I have a college roommate that's going through this right now. His son has an opportunity to go to Oklahoma in some capacity, and then he's got opportunities elsewhere. And, and you wonder, is the play, do you go somewhere that you can play rather than develop? And then you potentially have these opportunities like in the portal to transfer somewhere that sees you in action, rather than as a potential.
Yeah, when you think about it, both of you being athletes, how many people did you know, or maybe you guys didn't experience, where you go and you felt like you just never got the respect that, that they, and they leave, or quit,
right,
or just don't want to carry on, but in the right situation, that's what he did, which was fantastic.
His other thing that he's very into, he likes the lower star recruits because he said they're still hungry. Right. They're hungry to get after it. They haven't gotten their flowers yet, per se, and so they're hungry. They get after it because they have that chip on their shoulder to prove how good they are, and you see that through the players he has. They're awesome.
I think he said, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but you work with what you got, right? And when you came from James Madison like he did, he brought some of those proven players, brought in some more experience. Well, now with this success they've had, clearly you're not going to turn down 5-star, athletes.
Sure.
Now they're going to draw those type of players.
Right.
So now it's probably like a culture fit type of thing. I don't know. Yeah. We're speculators like everybody else.
Hey, if you're just joining us, I have Craig and Crecia Robeen, graduates of Indiana and played at Indiana in their college career, and big fans of Indiana and went on to the games. Went to all the games. Tell us about, first of all, that was kind of a big commitment, to break away and go, right? I mean,
it was humongous, and I'll start real quick. First of all, I would say we're Big Ten fans. So, like, if this was Illinois or Minnesota that did this last year, we would 100% be following that and supporting them. Mm-hmm. We are huge Big Ten fans. There's always, if you were there, big pride associated with the Big Ten. But for us this year in following Indiana, we were sitting at the kitchen table the morning of the Big Ten championship game that was being played in Indianapolis, and I was looking at the ticket prices and kind of estimating what a weekend to see this game might be.
The morning?
Yeah, the morning
of.
And I don't really want to get into the details of that. I'll just say that it's enough to make you think real hard about what you're doing. But I looked at her and I'm like, you know what? Indiana hasn't beat Ohio State since 1988, and they're good enough to beat them. I don't know if they will. And it's in Indianapolis. It's for the Big Ten championship. If this all works out and we weren't there, we would be upset. So we bit the bullet and we made the trip.
We literally bought the tickets, told the girls, pack your bags, we're leaving in 30 minutes. And we were on the road, like truly on the road. And we actually have a picture that circulated through my family that I took a selfie in the truck telling my family, like, we're going to the game. And all the girls are back there, like, doing hair and makeup in the back of the truck, like, on our way to the game. So it was wild. But yeah.
That is wild.
And I'll tell you, having been a football fan and a person, you played, obviously. Mm-hmm. Like, when I saw Ohio State's defensive line in that game, I don't know how closely, people that follow college football closely, they would tell you that Miami had an unbelievable defensive line. They got Jason Taylor, former NFL, all-pro, coaching them. He played for the Dolphins. Ohio State had an outstanding, when you talk about talent size, their defensive line was incredible. And that game was a slugfest. Anybody that watched that game, I think, could just really appreciate the defense that was played, the risks that were taken, And for Indiana to come out on top in that game, you know, that was like the first big surprise. If there's one team I think that should be upset this year, Ohio State had it all. Like, they had the defense, they had the quarterback, they had an outstanding team. But after they beat them, then you just kind of get swept up in it. You know?
Well, I was going to say, so during that game, the very first play after kickoff, Indiana has the ball. We start the series, and they get a hit in on Mendoza, and he's laying on the field, and the crowd was Indiana heavy for sure, and the whole stadium went silent. And Craig was like sick to his stomach, like, we've just spent all this money and driven over here.
And his butt spent this money to come here, and he got hurt on the first play.
Yeah, and he's just laying there, and everybody's just like, I mean, it was, just this moment of like, oh my gosh, what just happened? And he leaves the floor or the field, and his brother comes in, and then it was just like this. When he comes running back out, and he later said, he's like, it was a clean hit. I just got the air knocked out of me. He's like, I had no wind left, and so he had to come off. He comes back on, and it was like when he came on, the crowd just came alive, and that was so. I mean, it was just so much fun. And then the kind of one big notable moment that I just remember is when they missed the field goal. Well, everyone forgets we missed a field goal that game too, but they missed a field goal going into the half that would have tied us up. It was 10-7, and it would have tied us up, and that place went nuclear. Like, it just went, the sound was deafening inside that stadium.
So you have to say that was probably 70% Indiana there.
Correct.
It was in Indianapolis.
Indianapolis.
Yeah.
You know?
But that was the least of the sway in terms of fans. When we went to the Rose Bowl,
Yeah,
it was 85,
Alabama.
85% Indiana fans out there.
So we've just enjoyed this great Big Ten. We're driving back, right? We're on I-70 West, headed back home, living on this high of Indiana just won the Big Ten championship. And somebody happens to text him like, oh, we're putting together a group for the Rose Bowl. And I looked at him, I'm like, we got to go to the Rose Bowl. We can't not go to the Rose Bowl.
We have to go to the Rose Bowl. If last time Indiana was in the Rose Bowl was 1967. O.J. Simpson was playing for USC. So my coach in the NFL Europe played on that team for Indiana. And I remember I was telling Crecia, I'm like, 1967 was the last Rose Bowl. We won the Big Ten. We're going to the Rose Bowl. We're going, and we're taking everybody. This is going to be...
So it was Robeen family trip to the Pasadena is what it turned into. So, yeah, it was incredible.
Okay. Any big... How did that game go?
You know, it was from
exciting.
start. It was exciting. Our tickets to that game were like 15 rows up in the corner of the end zone. And for me, the most exciting part of that game was... Indiana kind of just slowly took control, and D'Angelo Pons had a big hit on Alabama's quarterback at a key time and forced a fumble, cracked the guy's ribs, and clean hit too. And it was just pretty much a dominant performance. They beat them 38-3, which again, okay, if you're an Indiana fan, and let's just pretend this was Minnesota, Illinois, or anybody else of this same, type of program, and you win the Big Ten championship by beating Ohio State. Now you go to the Rose Bowl and you're playing the storied Alabama Crimson Tide, okay? And then just to beat them like that badly.
The very first series, Alabama got us 3 and out. And one of our girls wanted a snack, so I'm walking up the steps while we're in a timeout, and I hear the Alabama fans start chirping up behind us like, they haven't played this big boy football. Indiana doesn't know what they're in for. Big boy football is here. I mean, they're just chirping, right? And then they just flat out dominate. Those fans couldn't run out of the stadium fast enough after that game was over. They did not want anybody talking back after that. So, but I think when it cleared, and it was the trophy presentation, and just the Indiana fans were left, I mean, we had them at least 80 to 90% of that stadium was Indiana fans. It was a home crowd. It was so much fun, and it was neat to be in such a historical place and get to see everything that we got to see. And for the 5 days we were there, it poured rain, and the only time it did not rain the entire trip was during the football game.
I'll be there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So cool time.
And then on to Peach Bowl.
The Peach Bowl. So Crecia and I just went, and of course we're coming back from Pasadena after taking the family there, and I'm like, we're getting into like a year of college tuition here, Crecia. I'm like, I just don't know, but I could just tell because you got every Saturday for 25 years. Since we've known each other, we have sat and watched these games. We don't miss And you carry that with you, whether they win or lose. You act like you don't care. Hey, that was a long time ago. But if they lose, it goes with you, right? So we decided immediately that we're going to Atlanta. So that one was not easy because I flew out of Chicago and she flew out of St. Louis. We were in different places and we met in Atlanta. And we had outstanding tickets there. We were at the 20-yard line, 50-yard line, 20 rows up, and got to see a lot of former players there as well. And from just the beginning of the game against Oregon, it was out the gate.
I was going to say that was fun for you because so many of your old teammates were there, and we got to meet up with them, which was really fun. And then the tickets we happened to have got us down on field level, which was really cool. We weren't expecting any of that kind of stuff, and it just ended up being that part was really cool. And again, it's pouring rain in Atlanta, which we took as a good sign, and got in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and that was the first where they threw a pick in the first play of the game, and it was so loud. I think the noise would have registered on the Richter scale. I mean, that place was just deafening. Like you couldn't have heard if he talked to me right beside me.
It's one of those plays when you're at the game, as soon as the ball left the quarterback's hand from the angle we had, and you saw D'Angelo Pons undercut the route. I stood up before the ball even got there. I'm like, this is over. He picked that thing off and went to the house on the first play because everybody was speculating, like, is Indiana going to beat Oregon like they beat Alabama? And you're like, no way. Okay, Oregon is an excellent team. This is going to be a 4-quarter game. And for the very first throw of the game to be a pick six, I was like, the dream keeps going. I was like, here we go.
And it's one of those scenes where truly everyone's jumping up and down and yelling, and you're high-fiving rows around you, and everybody's hugging. I mean, truly, that's the scene inside of the stadium. It was awesome.
And again, you had I bet that game was 90% Indiana there.
At least.
Completely.
That one was even more. Mm-hmm.
Indiana is a fan base that is very capable. They got one of the business schools in the nation, one of the largest alumni bases in the nation. This is an alumni base that has the means and the desire, the pent-up desire to support a team like this. I mean, they travel very well.
They and Indiana also has a large medical school, eye school, dental school, huge business school, like he said, but then just a ton of other very successful programs. I think the number one public affairs program in the country, huge alumni base. Of course, Mark Cuban, Cook Family Pharmaceuticals. So I mean, they have a lot of support.
Well, and then there was no doubt you were going to go to the national championship.
We were too far in.
At that point, again, it's just numb. And I will say the university was really good with former players about tickets. And
Did you take the kids?
We didn't take the kids because, again, we just felt like the price to get in versus their appreciation of the event. The average ticket for the national championship game was going for like $4,000 a piece for the top row in the stadium.
Oh my!
Like the nosebleed section.
Mm-hmm. So, just as an example, and this is nothing.
Was Indiana driving that price up?
Well, Indiana has.
Yes. So it was definitely by far blown out the highest price for any national championship they've ever had by far. But it was a perfect storm. You had Indiana coming down there for this long-awaited game, right? But then you have Miami, and it's in Miami at their home stadium, and those people could sit and wait to buy a ticket until the last minute. It didn't matter because that was a home game for them. So it was just the perfect storm to drive the price up.
Everyone was waiting for the prices to go down, and I was telling them, I'm like, these prices are not going down. Like the same tickets that we sat in at Atlanta, which were, I thought were insane. These tickets were $20,000 to $24,000 a piece at the national championship is what they were going for on SeatGeek.
Crazy.
On the 50-yard line. So we obviously didn't sit there.
Well, believe it or not, we ran out of time at this episode. And so listeners, stay tuned. We're going to finish this up next episode. Hey, it's a local spotlight show here at WJBM Studios in Jerseyville, Illinois, the voice of the Tri-Counties. I am Chris Lorton. I am your host. And back with me again today, I have Craig and Crecia Robeen, Indiana graduates, big fans, and they went to you went to every game, didn't you, from once the championship started? Or did you make any regular season games?
We didn't make a regular season game this year. Again, her season coaching conflicts with that. But from the Big Ten championship on. So, yeah, it was fun.
And those that might miss the last episode, you can go on YouTube or listen on demand and catch it all. So, anyway, now, Craig, have you ever coached?
Not really. I helped out with some of the guys that I grew up with that are now all high school coaches or were at one time, and I would go to their camps and help, but not officially a head coach of a team.
And Crecia, you've been coaching volleyball for how long?
A long time. Yeah. So even when we were up in Peoria, I helped just locally with camps and with some of the club teams and camps that they would put on up there. And then when we moved to Carrollton, I have been our head coach for the last 5 seasons at the high school. And then I've also coached at St. John's for the last
I'm going to ask
seasons.
Craig, how good was Crecia as a volleyball player?
As a player, as a college football player, you went and watched because they were usually very good-looking women wearing short shorts. So in college, our interest at football players was maybe something different. But she was an excellent player. Look, you have to be amazing to be her size. She was the shortest volleyball player in the Big Ten, and to go initially as a walk-on, right?
Correct.
And then to earn a scholarship. I'll say that is it was extremely difficult at that time to overcome everything you have to overcome as a walk-on to earn that scholarship, which you did in year 2, right?
Correct.
And then was a starter for 3 years and then a team captain. Being a team captain, that's voted on by your peers. And that's the greatest honor that has been bestowed on me in my career of anything is when your teammates look at you and they say, hey, this is our leader, Yep. So, she had to be excellent. And I would say that what she's done in coaching has been equally as impressive, in terms of starting the program at St. John's. They didn't have a program. They won 2 state championships last year, 7th and 8th grade, from 0 to state championship in 4 or 5 years. Mm-hmm. So, and
that's just like the coach from Indiana.
I don't know.
Well, there's a whole story there.
Yeah, I'm doting on her a little bit, but she's done a really good job. And the biggest thing is, like, when she comes home, of course, our kids are playing and we're vested in that way, but we spend a lot of time talking together in difficult situations about what is the best thing for this kid. Because ultimately, the sport, it's not just about playing today or winning today. It's what tools are they going to take with them that's going to matter later. And that's the real lesson from sports. And we do spend a lot of time talking about that at home, So that's been fun to be a part of that.
That's great. And I'm sure Carrollton High School and all the community really appreciates all the work you put in. And having such a great, they're so fortunate, Anyway, let's go to this championship game that you guys attended. All right. So did you know all along, that you were going to go to that when you were at the Peach Bowl and they won? Were you thinking, okay, now what? What happened?
Crecia was feigning as if it didn't matter, but I could just tell there was going to be no happiness in our house unless she was physically at each one of these games. So it's taken me a long time as a husband to figure some of these things out that are unspoken, but I knew immediately because of her passion for Indiana and football, really, that she was going to have to be at every one of these games.
So I'll say this. I am a college football fan. Like, I love college football. I watch ESPN Game Day, like, before I go into coach practice on Saturdays. Like, I'm watching every game I can watch. It's my reality TV. Like, I don't watch Real Housewives. I watch college football. That is my reality TV. I know the players, the transfer. I know all the big things that are happening, the backstory drama. I love it all. So I'm heavily vested in college football in general. And then when Indiana's doing it, it's like just euphoria. So he's right. I wanted to go to everyone.
Well, that's what I tell people when they ask me about football. Hey, how is Indiana doing in the portal? How's this going? Or what? You should ask Crecia because she's watching all of the coverage. She's up on it. So
I don't know. Let me call her. Crecia.
Yeah, it's true.
Yes. So you decide. Was it hard to get tickets?
It was really hard. You know, we were slow playing that in the hotel room in Atlanta the day after the Peach Bowl. We stayed an extra day. I think the game was on Friday night, and we stayed.
Actually, the joke was we said, "Hey, tell everybody back home we're just going straight to Miami. We'll see the kids in 10 days. Like we're just going. Like let's just go." But we had to get home for work and all the other responsibilities. So.
You know, I went to the national championship game in 2017 when Alabama and Clemson played, just as a bucket list item. I was like, I have to go see one. I took some customers, and I was talking to the Alabama fans because Clemson had out-traveled them. And I said, how come Clemson is out-traveling you? They're like, you don't understand, man. Like, a lot of these people, Alabama is not densely populated. They pay to go to all these games during the season. And then you go to the SEC championship. And then by the time you get to the national championship, people are out of money. And I was like, no way. You know, it's not that expensive to go to these games. And one of the things I've joked this year is you have no idea how expensive it is to be a fan of an elite college football player. You got to want it if you're going to these games. So, yeah. So we ended up getting the tickets probably on Wednesday. I caved Wednesday morning, and I was like, they're not getting cheaper, you know? So we bit the bullet, got the tickets, and we already had our hotel and everything planned, which a lot of people did. Everybody bought a hotel and flights, and they were like, if I get down there and I can't get a ticket, I'll just go to a bar and watch it. But there was a ton of people that went down that didn't go to the game.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got decent tickets?
We did. We were 12 rows up in the corner of the end zone, which is kind of tough. You know, when you're used to watching at home, the commentators give you all the news. Mm-hmm. So when you're at the game, you know, you don't get all that color commentation. So, but being on that end, of course, you see all the action on that end, which we saw some really cool stuff. But you miss, you know, you're watching the Jumbotron on the stuff on the other end of the field. So, but the tickets were excellent for the venue, I would say.
I would say the only negative was it's a little bit older stadium. So the cup holders were right into his knees. So he happened to remove one before the game.
It's like, I am not paying what I paid to sit here. When you sat down, okay, the back of the seat bowed, and the only place where my knees would fit, there was cup holders sticking out.
Right.
And I looked around, and I was like, there's cup holders missing from a lot of these chairs, and I'm sure it's for the same reason that I'm feeling right now. Mm-hmm. So the chair in front of me was less a couple of cup holders, because I was like, I'm not sitting like this for 6 hours, you know. For the price of admission to this place, this should not feel like.
Of course, the only time you ever sit down for all of these games was during timeouts. You stood the entire rest of the game. Yeah. Everyone stood in the entire stadium for the entire game, with the exception of timeouts. You would get your sitting break during timeouts.
I'll be done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So got any highlights from the game?
Yeah, go ahead. You're better with the plays. For me, the big highlight is you go back and there's a lot of player tailgates, and you realize that there was a moment of your life, and you could think of your high school team, your college team, and then, you know, like my NFL Europe team, and even a couple of the training camps where you get so close to a certain group of people for what now seems like a relatively short period of your life, and you have those relationships that you mostly walk away from after that because everybody gets busy, and then you go back and you realize that it's just like you didn't miss a beat, right? It's like, you know, you get together with your old buddies, you don't see them for years, and it's like you just get right back. So for me, that was a highlight. Crecia could talk about the highlights of the game. I mean, she's watching the mashups during and after the game, you know. So
I think one of the first things that happened that was just you kept waiting. It was just back and forth. I mean, it was just tight the whole entire time. And then they went to punt that ball, and Kamara, it said he just turned it loose and went after it and got the blocked punt. And I think it was number 46 Jones who recovered it in the end zone. And again, the stadium just blew up. I mean, just blew up, like, because they've made a living all season on these phenomenal defensive plays.
Special teams.
Yeah, special teams. And we just kept waiting for one of those to happen. And when it broke, then that was just kind of like we needed that, right? Mm-hmm. And they were shutting us down on offense, actually.
So, Chris, you know what's cool about Indiana, and I don't know if this is the way now, but having played, you would be able to remember this. And if you're a coach today, you're thinking about how do I use my best players when they're not on offense or defense. The guy that blocked that punt was on the punt block was a starting defensive end. Okay, and during the timeout, when you're at the game, you see these things when they're standing out there lined up for kick return before they're kicking it off and they're just milling around.
Yep.
You notice that Charlie Becker, the best wide receiver, is like on the front line of the kickoff return. So this isn't the type of thing where they say like, hey, we're going to put all of our backups out here on special teams. I mean, they place a premium on it. They've got their very best players out there for the special teams.
Indiana does.
Yes, which I thought was a lesson.
And a lot of times teams don't want to risk those players. They don't maybe value special teams. But Indiana made a living on special teams this year. You know, I mean, got a lot of great plays off of it, and that's why they're playing their starters. So I would say, you know, and you just said Charlie Becker, he had just some phenomenal, you know, back shoulder catches down the stretch for third downs that were great. And then, of course, the play that we've all seen a million times.
Well, you and I have.
Well.
Well, on the field, Miami had all the momentum.
One second. I got to let everybody know.
Yep.
I got super Indiana fans here. Craig and Crecia Robeen going over the highlights of last, I don't know, was it a week ago? 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, like 2 weeks.
2 weeks ago. Yeah. Talking about, you know what? And really, listeners, you're blessed to hear this. This is the inside scoop, right? Yeah. You're not going to hear this. You're not going to hear this anyplace else. So
unless you run into us, you'll hear it. we're hope it's not too pompous, you know. But it's just after that long, it's been so thrilling, you know. But the play she's referring to is we were sitting in the corner end zone right in front of this. It was 4th and 5. And it's late in the game, and they could have kicked the field goal and gone up by 6. But Miami kind of had all the momentum, and this is really the big play of the game. Yeah. And Cignetti sent the field goal kicker out there. And then they called a timeout, and the field goal kicker's still out there warming up. This is one of the things at the game when you're kind of like, you don't get to hear Herb Street saying, you know, they're going to kick it or whatever, you know. You're just like, when they break the huddle to come back out, they've got the offense out there. And I looked at her, and I'm like, this is insane. Like the risk that he is taking, you know, it sent a clear message that, you know, they're not happy to be here. They're playing to win. And that 4th and 5 play, they called the quarterback. Basically, it's an isolation play. So like when you run a draw and all your, sorry, I don't want to.
No, I want to back. I want to back up just 1 second there, though. What was fun is when we went back and we did get to watch the TV highlights, you hear the moment Cignetti make that decision, and you hear him go, we're going to go, let's go. And now hearing that, my heart stops because I'm like, I can't believe they did that. Like, I can't believe it all happened in that 1 second decision. Like, it's just mind-blowing.
That's the way he is, isn't
he? That's what they get paid for. How would you like to make that decision? That's why he gets $11 million a year or whatever, because you make that decision.
I will say that happened right in our corner of the end zone. Right in front of us happened. And, you know, we're all just, I mean, you're just collectively holding your breath as a crowd. Like, I can't believe we're doing this. Go ahead.
Well, look, for me, the call was interesting because, not to get too down in the weeds here, but there's basically 3 schemes of blocking in football. It's not that complicated at the line. You got zone scheme, you got gap scheme, and you've got man. Isolation is blocked as man. So a draw is like, you know, the quarterback pulls back like he's going to throw. Everyone blocks it like isolation. So you've got the fullback up on the middle. You've got kind of man blocking up front. And it was not really there. And it was 4th and 5 on the 10. And Mendoza, you know, he got around one guy, but everyone was a hat on a hat, right? So this is like a great lesson in football. You break this play down. If you look at, they weren't pancake blocks, but no one was like flopping on the ground and missing. They were on their feet, and they had a hat on a hat. And he was able to work around, and he got the first down, got smashed. I mean,
got the first down.
Spun around, kept his feet, and then dove. As if the kid wasn't a legend already. Winning the Heisman, and then to make that play in the national championship, it's like, there's a picture.
On 4th and 5.
Yeah. Well, what's cool about what we ended up appreciating about this team is like they're just such good kids. They hold themselves so well. They interview so well, and he's just been so humble the whole entire way, and which is incredible to watch. This kid, he's been so humble, and I did love. There's just a flash of a moment after he makes that incredible touchdown, and his teammates pick him up, and he's coming to the sideline, and his quarterback's coach goes to give him a high five, and he just gave him a little Heisman. And I was like, oh, like it was just his only moment of like that's right, you know, and because he never acts like that, and so it was so fun to just see that little bit.
I think that's the big influence of the coach, though, setting the tone, because you didn't see a lot of this beating their chest for individualism throughout the season. When they interviewed after the game, they were saying smart things. They weren't saying stupid things. That's coaching, right?
Yeah.
If you want to control that aspect of what the kids do, you have to coach it. And you could just tell they were all so selfless, you know, and that it, you know, one of the mantras they said, and one of the players quoted this at their rally, you know, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. You know, and you could tell they embodied that throughout the season. Just the discipline. It wasn't a team that was going to beat itself. You had to beat them. You didn't see a lot of penalties. You didn't see a lot of fumbles. Those are the easy things, right, that we can all bring. And they had enough talent, obviously, to get it done. So it was really cool.
And this to finish out that game, you know, Alabama is driving and going for a touchdown. Miami. Sorry. Miami is driving, going for a touchdown, and they're moving down the field. And they are making ground, and you see Carson Beck go back and just throw that long ball, and they've got a receiver down there. And luckily, our was it our cornerback?
Yeah,
I think?
it was a little underthrown, and he came under and picked it off, which was.
And then, of course, it was just party on, right? Just yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
I'm afraid that we're having too much fun, Crecia.
We might be. It was so much fun.
I don't want to appear as if we're gloating, but I will remind everybody what we have been through, you know, as fans and players.
Yeah.
There is just a euphoric moment, you know. And when you asked to come and talk about it, I was like, you know, why not? That sounds like big fun. Let's do that.
Any advice, any tips that you like to give maybe young players in our neck of the woods and parents to be able to succeed like Indiana?
You know, I think that what he was just talking about, that team atmosphere and being all in for the team, it's incredible, that selflessness and being for the team, what you can accomplish when a team has that mindset. And actually, I give that example of even our little 8th graders at St. John's. Those girls understand, you know.
And you won 2 state championships?
We did last year, yes. Yeah.
2 state championships.
Yeah, and those girls are currently undefeated. I mean, they got a long road ahead of them still. But, you know, I give this example. They're all great girls. They're all great girls. But they're 8th grade girls. They're not all best friends, okay? Right. But when they get on the floor together, they encourage each other. They cheer each other on. They pick each other up. They're each other's biggest fans, and they know the opponents on the other side of the court. They want to win so bad. They put aside all differences, and they play as a team. And I think that that's something that you saw Indiana do just magnificently. And I think that it's something that carries over because we've become a very individualistic society. And I think that when you start to see kids be willing to buy into that team concept and buy into, like, we're here for the team, everybody buy into their job on the team, you see a lot of success come out of that. And, you know, I was lucky. North Green High School is doing a really neat thing. Their technical math class, they've got a great teacher, and she's doing these things called Future Fridays. And she's asking people to, she asked the kids, what do you think you might be interested in doing in the future? And they gave her a list of careers. And so she's gone and asked people to come speak to them who are in those careers. And they have a kid who, one of them was interested in potentially crop insurance or being a crop adjuster. And I'm also a crop adjuster. And so she asked me to come, and I went up and talked to them. But really anytime I get to interact with high school kids, and talk to them, and the message I gave those kids that day, like, you just have to be willing to show up on time, care, and outwork your peers. You do that, you'll be successful in 95% of situations. And that's the message you try to get through to these high schoolers. Like, help other people get what they want, and you'll be successful. And outwork your peers, be willing to go the extra mile. They say it's rarely crowded, right? Go the extra mile, show up and do the extra work. And that's something that we talked about. You know, yes, of course, I talked about being a crop adjuster when I was at North Green, but we talked a lot about just future lessons that apply to all avenues, whatever walk of life you choose to take.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think Craig, do you think Signetti, this will change the way coaches think about coaching football?
Yeah, I think that everybody's asking themselves a lot of questions based on the success that he's had in a short amount of time. Yeah. It's raised the bar for everybody. So I think you'll see that play out. The expectations are so unrealistic because every program out there has got donors willing to invest at a high level, and they all want to win the national championship. And there's 120 some odd FBS or Division I schools, and only one can win the national championship. And you know what? We were lucky this year that Indiana did it, and it's great. But that's what makes sports great. So they're going to have success as long as he's there. I think it's unrealistic to predict the same level of success, but they'll be competitive. For me to answer the same question that Crecia just did, I just talked to our group at our annual kickoff sales meeting, and I think that everyone gets so caught up in what other people are doing. And in sports, well, what is this person doing? What is this person doing? And look at what they're doing. And the only thing that we can all control is ourselves. So, I keep it very simple. Like the things that everybody can bring every day are a positive attitude. You can bring your effort and you can bring intensity. And having been both of these people, the type of person that does something half-ass and then the type of person that goes all in, is that it takes just as much effort to do a shitty job almost as it does to do an amazing job. So if you want to be different, focus on doing things right. I've told some of your kids that before. It's like, because kids are always trying to differentiate themselves. And a lot of times as high schoolers, you think that the answer to that is to do something wild and stupid. And for me, the things I notice when I watch college football now is the guy that scores the touchdown and walks in the end zone and hands the ball to the official. It's like when you get there, act like you've been there before. I mean, when you stand there and you do the dance and you slam the ball, it's like clearly it's his first time, So, expect it and act like you've been there before, and, that official, I'm sure it's not very good for them when you throw the ball at them and they got to chase it down.
Right.
And, I appreciate those types of things.
I agree. And it's something that we talk about all the time at the high school on our team is just everybody has a job. Everybody has a role. Embrace your role. And if you embrace your role, the whole team is going to succeed. And I think that that just that collective thought goes so far, and the kids get to be a part of something because not everybody's going to go be, the stud player that goes wherever. Not everybody's going to get to be that kid, but everybody can share in the success of a team and be a meaningful part to a team. And
that's the part they're going to take with them anyway.
Yeah.
Like for me, a lot of guys are always like, wow, it would have been so awesome to play at Michigan. And your experience, while it was, the most memorable things are the lessons, the same lessons are learned at each level. So I learned all that in high school, with the success we had. So it doesn't take getting to those levels to learn these things and to enjoy it. Oftentimes your best experiences and your best memories are going to be with those people you grew up with at the high school level. You've known them your whole life. You went through a large part of your developing years with them. So to have those experiences are great. And, it really makes me appreciate. I do not envy her a lot of times. Like coaching, anyone that gives their time coaching, it is such a difficult job. And this is just me as a spectator, to try to give everyone an opportunity to shine and to find a place where everyone can best be suited. And if someone's not finding that success, to keep them motivated or to counsel them in the right way. There is no amount of money that is enough. And I know that there's no coach that's in it for money at the high school level, but they do it because they love it. Yeah. And I have a deep appreciation for that, especially now having, our lives are not good when Carrollton volleyball loses. It affects me. Okay. So
win, baby, win. Well, I tell you what, ran out of time again. So we're going to wrap this up. Thanks so much for coming in. It was very enjoyable.
Always enjoy it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Yes. You guys take care.